Indeed. Dr. Radman Thies. Sam, a positive plan of action on Syria that may actually achieve some results would be for Obama and Kerry to put extreme diplomatic pressure on Russia to work with Assad to negotiate some kind of ceasefire. Russia actually has various kinds of support they can take away from Assad's regime if they're not listened to. These are no guarantees with any approach to such a messy situation, but the Russian diplomatic avenue, even if it involves us bribing Russia in some way, is preferable to a half-baked military involvement that may only prolong the country's civil war, not to mention draw U.S. into another military intervention. Jonathan Steele wrote an article about this approach nearly a year ago in The Nation, but Obama and Kerry have never seriously pushed for it. I mean, you know, we're gonna obviously get into Syria in a much more significant way tomorrow, but on balance, now I don't know if it's possible the success of diplomatic attempts to deal with via Russia, but it's quite clear that there is. I haven't seen anybody make an efficacy argument about attacking Syria. I mean, it has almost been sort of pathologically avoided that this is going to do anything other than perhaps implicate perception of the United States in the world. I mean, has anybody made any argument?
Some people have made the argument, and some of these people include people like John McCain, who definitely don't have much credibility. But some people have made, but some people have made the argument that you can degrade infrastructure capacities that is allowing Assad to do this type of systemic attack on his own people. That's the efficacy argument. I'm saying some people are making that. I'm not making that.
Right. I mean, all I've seen from McCain is regime change, that he is looking for regime change, weighing in this civil war, which 3 weeks ago did not make any sense to any rational thinking person. That there was any outcome from us weighing in on the civil war that would be positive. We don't even know who really makes up the rebel forces, if you will. We know the disparate elements. We have no way of knowing what the outcome is. We have yes, I suppose there are some who are looking for regime change, that if we go far enough, we can throw the war in favor of the rebels. But the idea that we could actually inhibit the Assad regime's actions in any meaningful way with some type of pinpoint accuracy is ludicrous to me. And I continue to, as for me, the guiding principle here is, if we are intervening, supposedly, to stop an ongoing attack or imminent attack or destruction of innocent life, then we need UN backing to do so. I'm not even clear under the 93 Chemical Warfare Treaty whether or not the United States can act unilaterally in this situation and still be within international norms. I mean, the argument I hear the most is that we must uphold the international norm of no use of chemical warfare, which I think is a valid point. But who decides what the international? If we're talking about protecting international norms, then we have to have some type of international credibility to do so. And at the very least, it seems to me that we need either a NATO or UN approval based upon that treaty. And I'm not even clear, unless we can make an argument that this in some way threatens one or two or UN or NATO.
Definitely threatens Turkey. The whole situation fundamentally threatens Turkey.
The use of chemical warfare.
The use of chemical and already the refugee crisis that in general the massive human rights violations
then
in Turkey.
At the very least we need NATO approval. right? And we're not going to get that, apparently, from the British at this point. I don't know if they could veto, if that vote that they took would necessarily mean that they would not join us in terms of NATO, but I think it does. And so
No,
for
they-
me,
they're
that
not
seems to be
joining.
the guiding
They're not
principle.
joining. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the other thing I would just recommend really quick, there was a really good piece by Robert Fisk this last weekend, I think in the Independent, about Fallujah and how we used white phosphorus and depleted uranium in Fallujah. And I think, I don't think that answers everything about Syria, obviously, but it is helpful, important to kind of keep that sort of stuff in mind, our own use of those types of weapons.
there's no doubt that there is a healthy dose of hypocrisy here. And one could make the argument that, well, this is progress. And I don't think that's completely without merit. I mean, we have a different president. I don't know if under Obama and we were in Iraq, we would have used that. And this is a healthy step in that direction, I guess. But yes, it's obviously would be hypocritical. But I don't think that's the point. I mean, hypocrisy is impossible. We wouldn't be able to do anything positive in the
more
world.
Saliently, the compensation that we could make in Iraq to make up for that now may be the more, in a certain sense, pressingly relevant thing, in the sense that the health consequences are a direct consequence of something we did. So that's more immediate than the hypocrisy point, is we haven't done enough to address what we did in Iraq to begin with.
Definitely. But I don't know how much of a bearing that has on this. I mean, I continue to subscribe to the notion that the least worst arbiter of the validity of intervening in a situation like this is the UN. And then I would say the second least worst is NATO, any other sort of like international alliance that provides some checks and balances on these things. And, the fact that Britain, the parliament has voted against joining us is, at least in my mind, some validation that there is that NATO and that the UN can function to provide checks and balances. I don't think it's any more than individual countries acting in their own best interests or perceived best interests, but that's, until the aliens come down and control the one world federation, we that's all we're left with. And that's not scheduled to happen for what, months, I think, right? Or years?